You all for meeting with me today. My name is Tanisha Whitelow. Just as a reminder, I'm the professional school counselor. In today's session, being the third session, we are going to discuss what we've learned from the first, second, and now today's third session, okay? Just a reminder, the topic that we talked about in the last two sessions were how African Americans experience racism in today's community, society, and just in our own personal lives, okay? The questions that I want to ask you guys is just in regards of what you've learned, constructive criticism that you can give back to me as a group facilitator, and just any suggestions or questions that you would like to ask me that could help me in my future presentational skills as a professional school counselor, okay? Now, before we begin, I would like to remind you all that today's third session will be kept confidential. Any information discussed in this session will be kept within this session. There will be no judgment. So as far as just respect level goes, when each of us are disclosing information about commentary, I would appreciate with us just listening and respecting each other's opinions, and we'll just go from there, okay? Okay. So just a quick reminder, I just wanted us to introduce ourselves so that way we are aware of each other's names if you wanted to communicate with one another during this session, okay? Let's start with you.
Cameron from Los Angeles, California.
Loretta Eddings from Fresno, California.
Nicholas Whitelow from Fresno, California.
Okay. Thank you all very much for introducing yourselves. So the first question that I would like to ask is, based off all three of the sessions, including today's session, I wanted each of you to take turns with providing feedback to me about how I did as a group facilitator, such as anything that you have learned, anything that you would change during the session that could have been differently, that you felt would have made a better impact on the group as a whole, or on you as an individual. Okay, so let's start with you first, Cameron.
I do feel like I learned a lot about just how I deal with a lot of racist people in everyday life. That being a minority, that's something that I have to get used to. That's always going to be here. And I did feel like you did listen to my story. You allowed me to be heard. And, as a counselor, it's always good, I think, to have someone that can hear where you're coming from and have an understanding. And also, I liked your input about just what I was going through in situations like when I was going to the mall and being judged just because I was with a certain group amount of black people, in the mall or something. So I like that you listen to me, and that really goes a long way, especially when I want to be heard.
I do appreciate that feedback. And just to repeat what he said so that we can all be on the same page, just as a group facilitator and as a professional school counselor, it's always my mission to make sure that all of my students, all of the adults that I talk to, whether it's a parent, a teacher, or just in a group counseling session as this, it's so important to be valued and to be heard. When we're talking amongst each other as a group, sometimes in a group it can be difficult to think, am I being heard? Does my opinion actually matter? But in this topic, I feel like we were able to relate to each other, not only because we were African Americans, but because the simple fact is we all have experienced racism in a setting. And I'm happy that we were able to come together as a group to discuss that topic. Thank you very much, Cameron, for sharing. Loretta, would you briefly like to give me feedback about how my group facilitation skills played an impact in your life, or what you have learned from the past sessions that we have had together?
Yes. With the group session, it was really interesting. It was a lot of good put out and good feedback from each side as the group. Really enjoyed it, and just as for my experience, like for their grocery shopping, when I was going grocery shopping, it was good feedback and input that I received and put out, because like I say, people go through everyday lives doing a different task or whatever like that, but racism is a big important part in our society today.
Right.
And then for the input for you being the counselor, you did your statement and judgment, and for our questions you asked us and how you came back with your own opinion about the situation was really providing, very interesting. I really enjoyed the session.
Thank you very much, Loretta, for sharing that input. I really appreciate that you brought up that the feedback that I've given you was very helpful because the fact is racism does exist. And in today's society, I believe the fact that we experience racism in different ways, it shows that we were still able to relate to one another and come to a common ground to make a difference and to make a change and to have a better outlook on the different experiences shared. Despite the fact that it was a negative experience, it still somehow impacted our lives in a new way. Okay? Thank you very much for sharing that. Nicholas, would you like to share?
Yeah. I think it was like very good feedback and how you asked us to share our opinions and we shared it. And you liked our opinions and it was very trustworthy or that we had to share. And it was
I would say like good positive feedback.
good positive feedback. And it was okay.
Now, thank you very much, Nicholas, for sharing that input. Just to kind of talk about my own presentation skills, I wanted to share with you all that prior to doing this presentation for this course, I really didn't have such good presentational skills. I personally felt like I've lacked